Hey there, hey there, hey there, hey there. This is Jimmy J. Jimmy J is in the building. Jimmy J is in the building. And guess what? You're live on the It Is What It Is show. And this is Jimmy J. I see we got some people out there in the audience. Y'all, it's a special day. No, not because it is what it is. Broadcasting the day is Johannes Jones, my only one and only Ace Boom Coon's ninth birthday. And I'm going to send a special shout out to him as we build up the audience. If you're out there, give us a shout out. There you go. And that's the only time Johannes is going to show his face. Johannes? Right, yeah. Out there. If you're out there, please give me a shout out. Let me know who you are. Let me see who you are. Let me see who you are. While we're doing this, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my topics for today's show. We're only going to do 1 hour. This is the first broadcast before we start bringing on guests to talk to our special show. And guess what? That music in the background is not, I don't own the rights to it, and I'm getting ready to tell Alexa, off. I just went ahead and told her to cut it off because we don't want any kind of information or misconstruement of any kind of thing going on. You're on the Jimmy J Show. The Jimmy J Show, it is what it is. It is what it is. I got my Jamaican brew right here. Shouts out to Jamaica. I got my Colorado hat, and my child's favorite team is the Marvels. And we are here live streaming to you on ATR's platform. And guess what? We got all this other juice right here. Boom. It is what it is. Y'all see it in the corner, the other corner right there. It is what it is. And don't get caught by the ItIS. This is the inaugural show. We want to get out there and have conversations with the community. We want to make sure we're talking to you. And it is what it is. I don't see any comments right now. So because I don't see any comments, we're going to get ready to start this show, making sure all my components are right. We got 13 viewers. I appreciate those 13 people spending the time with me here today. Let me go ahead and get all my good stuff. Red tea. Brother Bernard, I see you. Big brother Bernard, I see you. Make sure you tune into my big brother 10:30 every Friday night. After dark, he will tell you the truth about what's going on in our community. After dark, that is, y'all. We got 15 viewers. I appreciate it. I need y'all to share. We're at the 3-minute and 54-second mark. And when 5 minutes hit, we're going to start going into our show, y'all. Please go out there and share. The topics today's discussion: NFL football is back. Forgive or forget in 2021. That's the first topic. COVID or covert operation. Which kind of operation? Why are you scared to get the shot? This third topic is the black vote. What about the black vote we need to be talking about in the black community? And the last topic is what is going on in the church, y'all? What is going on in the church, y'all? I need y'all to share. Melvis, I see you. Natavi, I see you. Let's share. We're 20 seconds away before we start kicking in the topics. And guess what? It is what it is, and don't get caught by that ItIS, y'all. Share. I thank you, Orlando. I saw you shared it. Appreciate that. All right, y'all. We are 5 seconds away. We are 5 seconds away from getting into the topic of discussion. We are 5 seconds away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is the podcast. It is what it is. And we're going to tell it like it is, y'all. The NFL, National Football League, kicked off yesterday. I'm not happy about what happened yesterday. Yesterday, my Dallas Cowboys lost by 2 points. I think we played very conservative football and everything under the sun. Everything under the sun as far as being conservative football. But what I'm going to talk about the NFL is this topic right here. In the NFL, just a few years ago in the NFL, we were discussing how black people and white people and Black Lives Matter and all those other things that mattered just a few years ago. We were having these discussions with the NFL. Now, I'll be truthful about it. I use the NFL as a platform to let my head rest and everything like that. So I look forward to Thursdays. I look forward to Saturdays. I look forward to Sundays. I look forward to Mondays where the NFL and even in the college football ranks, we are able to watch football. But guess what? A few years ago, we had this situation going on with Colin Kaepernick, and it still lingers on a few years later, where it was a lot of issues with regards to how black quarterbacks were treated versus white quarterbacks were treated. And guess what? We made a big, hearty discussion in reference to that piece right there. Well, let's fast forward. Let's fast forward. 3-4 years later, through a year of COVID, the second year of COVID, we're in it right now. We're back in the stadiums. I was at James Raymond Stadium last night to watch my Cowboys. Yes, they lost. I know y'all want to talk about that, but yes, they lost to the Super Bowl champ Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But the one thing I wanted to discuss in that stadium was we had to be a full to capacity. So we have moved forward as far as being together as one in those kind of environments. Yes, I had my mask on. Yes, I protected myself. Yes, I did everything right to make sure that I was covered. However, moving forward, there was some key components I saw from that stadium perspective in the NFL. Number one, the Negro National Anthem was sung 10 minutes early before the program. Now, I don't know if they did it on the NFL channel or the TV, but we got to hear the performance of the Negro National Anthem in the stadium, number one. Number two, the national anthem was also performed, but it was performed by Michelle Williams and another guy, I can't think his name, but he played on the piano. But it seems to me that they're pushing the efforts to make sure that they're looking out to not get exclusive from dealing with African Americans. If you looked at the corner of the football field, it had the word racism. Last year, they were pushing the whole facts of having sneakers with all kind of topics and information on that. So it is what it is. Wants to bring up the conversation of, is the NFL moving toward being more inclusive because it understands 80% of its NFL players, 70% of its NFL players are minorities or African Americans? What is a true discussion? And part of this thing right here is not for me to be out here just talking to you. Part of this conversation is to put these topics out here for discussion so you can ask those questions so we can go out there and get these kind of people to be topic people on our discussion and our platform. And so the NFL was kind of choppy. It kind of changed it up a little bit right there. And so I don't see any comments. So I'm going to move to the next topic because guess what? If we don't want to talk about the NFL, I don't have a problem with that either. But it is important for us to bring up those social climatic scenes that they're testing the issues when it comes to the African American community. And I think the NFL has gotten smart. You know, the NBA jumped on board early because they made sure that you can have all the kind of references you wanted when it came to African Americans and the plight of African Americans, what they have to deal with the Black Lives Matter and everything like that. We saw our former U.S. Senator for Georgia, what she endured when she tried to boycott it, and what her NBA team, her WNBA team did, they boycotted her and they shelled her out. So, you know, the expression is starting to hit into the sports arena. And because of that, we're starting to see more growth. But I'm not going to be happy. I will say this before I go to the next topic. I will not be happy until an NFL team, is 32 teams out there. I won't be happy until one of the 32 teams doesn't have a minority owner, doesn't have a slither owner, but has a majority owner that is of African American descent. Because 80% of the NFL is made up of minorities. It should be at least 1%, or one of 32 of those teams should be owned and ran by African American. And so that's my topic for right there. NFL football is back. Forgive or forget. 2021, I think we're in a mode to forgive them on something, but we don't want to forget. And so my next topic, is it a COVID operation or is it a covert operation? Why are you scared? We're seeing the numbers still uptick in America. Now, we understand the previous person who occupied the White House didn't do a full job as far as making sure that we did what we needed to do to get this COVID situation under control. Millions of people have suffered from it, and at least 500,000 people have died from COVID. We know this, you know this, and we all in America understand this. But we're having issues tied to COVID in reference to politics that have dictated within the realms of bus drivers boycotting locally here in Chatham County. Bus drivers are actually boycotting all across America. And the economics. Let me tell y'all something, y'all. Peep this game right here. If you know, it's been said to me that people are lazy. They don't want to go back to work. People are just are collecting paychecks because the government just giving them free money and everything like that. Let me tell y'all something. When I talk to these people in reference to these paychecks, and when I talk to these people who are soon to be lazy and everything like that, it has nothing to do with the little check they get from the government. It has everything to do with they're human just like everybody else, and they're scared just like everybody else. They see people dying in the workforce just like everybody else. But when you talk about the fact that you think that they're lazy because they don't want to work and everything like that, sure, I would be lazy too if I was scared for my life to have to deal with some kids I see we have to deal with. Especially some of these parents who are talking about my kid don't need to wear a mask because my kid don't need to wear a mask and all this other ridiculous stuff right here. First off, we need to take the politics out of this mask thing altogether. We need to tell the Congress people, the local elected people, we need to tell all those politicians, stay out of this thing right here. We need to encourage everybody, if you feel that you're more safe with a mask, get a mask. We need to tell people, if you feel more safe by getting the COVID shot, get the COVID shot. There are 3 shots out there available. If you feel sick, go to the hospital. Go to the doctor. Make sure you're taking care of yourself because this thing is contagious. It can become problematic. But once again, is it a COVID or is a covert operation? And the reason why I bring this up is because guess what? We have gotten so downtrodden in making this thing political. Now, it done got all the way up to the congressional seat. It's already been to the presidency. We already hear about it in all our local elected seats. It has become a covert operation where it is Republicans versus Democrats. And just because it's a Republican agenda, the Democrats are on the green, and the Democrat agenda and the Republicans are on the green. We need to get past these political agreements and disagreements, and we need to see what the facts say. The facts say that we're safer wearing a mask. The facts say we are better when we are vaccinated. If those 2 facts are true, then take care of those 2 factors and live with them in your principles in your life. But what's happening now is we have been hijacked by politics. And what politics is saying, my child ain't wearing a mask because my child ain't wearing a mask because I'm a part of this party structure, or I'm wearing a mask because I'm a part of this. It shouldn't be about that. It should be about whatever Dr. Fauci says or whatever anybody who's out there who is from the health community and what they says is true. If you know anything about Dr. Fauci, I think Dr. Fauci is tied to the Republican Party at one point in time. If he's tied to the Republican Party, but he's telling you wear a mask, he's telling you get vaccinated, then it's not political to him. It's health to him. That's what he went to school for, to deal with the health structure of different things. And my thing is, if we have made this thing so political, then guess what? People just don't want to see and believe that there's actually an opportunity to make this thing better out there. And so because we made this apolitical, because we made this thing where it's not about people no more, I can't get mad at somebody who does not want to go to work. Because my thing is, just because you can afford to send your kids to private school, just because you can afford to make sure whenever you get sick, you can pay the doctor bill and everything like that, everybody in America don't have that. But my thing is this, and I'm going to talk to my Republican friends. If you talked about health care for all, if you talked about a better health care system, then guess what? We can talk about that conversation about everything else, why people aren't showing up to work and anything like that. But if I am an American in this country, if I am American in this country and I make $12 an hour doing whatever it is, $12,000 an hour, and I'm succumbed to dealing with people who are not wearing masks in public, dealing with people who have nasty behind attitudes, dealing with people who do not care about my presence other than me getting my meal or me getting my hotel bed made, I would sit my butt home too. Because you know what? It's unfair for you to not think about them as human. Because when it's all said and done, we are all humans in the spectrum. And so is this a covert operation or is it a COVID operation? We need to make sure, America, that we're having a bigger discussion about that piece right there. I don't know if the comments aren't working. I don't know if it's a flow stream. I don't know if I'm not talking loud enough, but I'm not seeing any comments in the section. This is what I need y'all to do. I need y'all to share, or this is going to be the shortest show in America. And I hate to disappoint those people who follow All Things Relevant, ATR, because guess what? It's about making sure we bring the message out to you. And so my second topic was COVID or covert. Why are we so scared? I hope to God that you understand those people aren't scared. They just want to live just like you do. And so my third topic, the black vote. I'm going to pause right there because I only see 22 people watching me right now. As I run my mouth, this is a very, very important topic. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to count to 5, and I'm going to ask y'all to go out there and share this message. It is what it is. Don't get caught by the ItIS, y'all. It is what it is. You know what? See, they didn't know I had this already in store. But when I say don't get caught by the ItIS, y'all see that right there? Y'all see what that there says? Don't get caught by the ItIS. Y'all read it for yourself. See, some of y'all done been caught by that ItIS. Some of y'all done been caught by the ItIS. I'm going to put it one more time because I only jumped up 3 places. I'm going to take my glasses off. Yeah, y'all heard me. Y'all, I'm going to take my glasses off. It says ItIS, forming names of inflammatory diseases. Basically what it's saying is, don't get caught by the ItIS because the ItIS isn't good for you. It causes all kind of problems. It causes all kind of pain. This is Jimmy J. I'm asking y'all once again. I'm pleading y'all once again. Make sure you share. Make sure you share. Our third topic, now that I have asked y'all to share, is the black vote. The black vote. I want to talk about the black vote today, y'all. I really want to talk about the black vote today. You see, let me get this misconstrued. See, understand this. There is getting ready to be a war over the black vote. I'm going to say this again because y'all didn't hear me. I'm going to say it slower. There is getting ready to be a war over the black vote in our community. The reason why that war is persisting is because black people are starting to wake up across America. They're starting to make sure they're starting to form opinions. They're starting to realize that local politics is just as important as national politics. They're starting to realize the fact that we have been bamboozled, ran amok, led astray. All those other good characteristics we talked about when we saw the movie Malcolm X and when we learned about how Malcolm X was doing what he did. We've had all kind of plans in the community, and there's all kind of this difference of opinions about what I'm getting ready to say, but I got to say it anyway. African Americans, we have to get together. Black Americans, we have to get together, and we have to form an agenda that's going to move our narrative forward. Black America is the only group of people in this society, in this country, that never had an opportunity, never had a leg up in getting to the finish line as quick as everybody else around us. When we came out of slavery, I'll say it just like this. When we came out of slavery, nothing was given to us but freedom. And freedom was, and it's even questioned by that, how we got our freedom. When we got our freedom, there was nothing given us. All we would say, we came from a slave mentality and said, hey, you are now free, son. You can go out there and do what you want. However, I can't give you no car. I can't give you no cell phone. I can't give you no house. I can't give you none of that stuff because if you want that stuff, you got to work for me on pennies on the dollar. That's what happened when slavery was abolished, y'all. When slavery was taken out of its little cup, when it was taken out of its little cup, that's what happened. It wasn't something where you're now free and here is 40 acres of mule. They took that away. And that would have been a one leg up, and that would have helped Black America, but then they didn't get that opportunity to get that 40 acres of mule. But we don't talk about it enough in America. We don't talk about how 400 years we have not had any opportunities to be on that same playing field as our counterparts across the table. Now watch this. I don't blame all white America for that, y'all. I want to make sure that's clear. I don't blame all white America. Some of that fault is on us because sometimes when we got in those elected seats, and we got elected seats across America, when sometimes we got in some of those elected seats, guess what we didn't do? We didn't reach back and make sure our community moved forward. Now in Atlanta, I shouts out Atlanta. Atlanta, they understood economic power. because they brokered with the governor and say, hey man, if you want our votes, guess what? You're going to have to start giving us something down here in Atlanta, Georgia. And that's why Atlanta became the Mecca it is. I'm not going to go into facts and figures because I'm going to find me somebody out there, a historian out there, to go deeper into the legend of what Atlanta is before Delta and Home Depot and all them things and Coca-Cola came to Atlanta and made Atlanta the home. But I will tell you this, Atlanta was a trademark, but we didn't use that trademark across the whole state of Georgia. And hence why we still are behind the 8 ball when it comes to communities like Savannah, when it comes to communities like Brunswick, when it comes to communities like Waycross. I'm going to talk about the 1st Congressional District because I ride through the 1st Congressional District and I still see that the finish line keeps getting moved further and further away as we get closer to it. This is what happens. The finish line moves along with us when we move. And so the only way we're going to change that piece is we got to understand the power of the black vote. Okay, I'm going to say it together. We got to understand the power of the black vote. And if we understand the power of the black vote, then we can change all kind of things in our community. But guess what? We proceed to not understand the black vote and how we can use it as a black bloc. And shouts out, I understand that most black African Americans vote in the Democratic Party in this day and age, but at one point in time, if you did not notice, we voted as Republicans at one point in time. And we switched parties in the 60s, 70s, some people say 50s. We switched parties around those 2 or 3 decades because we saw the greater group in the Democratic Party. But the problem is we never gave African Americans an agenda to go to the polls and say, okay, James is on the ballot. What has James done for the black community? Nothing, then James don't get the vote. Did James do this for housing? No. Did James do this for economic development? No. Did James do this for this? No. And the problem is, guess what? Because we don't have a black agenda, we don't have a check mark list for when people come to represent us in our communities, we have nothing to hold them accountable. And because we have nothing to hold them accountable, they'll come in our community, song, dance, and Jimmy play and do all this other stuff like this, and then they walk away with our votes and then having that black candidate, sometimes in most cases in our black community, they go over to the other community and do everything for them and forget about us. If you don't believe it, I will say this. Just ride your community. If you ride through your community, you see where the development and growth is going at, and you see where the onslaught of forgottenness is also at too. If you go across the United States of America, this has happened to all black communities. If you go to any major highway, at one point in time, you always want to know why the neighborhood was here, and then there's a road right here, but it's shut off, and the major highway sitting in between. That's because they built straight through the black community because that's what they've been doing across America. This ain't just a problem locally. This is a national problem, national journey. So what I encourage you to do is I encourage you to go out there, read books on this stuff, learn on this stuff, and tell me what kind of guests you want to hear on this show so we can have those kind of conversations. And so my next piece, the black vote was that. And my last piece that I want to discuss before I start going here and data mine and try to find people to have these discussions, my last piece that I really want to talk about is what's going on in the church, y'all. What's going on in the church? You see, America has changed. America has changed in one way, one regard. The church has changed. What changed about the church is this right here. This changed about the church. COVID, and I know we talked about COVID early, but what COVID did to the church, was this. And I see you, Natalie. I'm going to come back to you. What COVID did to the church was this. COVID made the church react. You see, if you biblical and if you tied to the Bible and everything, then you know you need to serve the present age. And what happened with COVID was COVID found out what churches were ready to serve the present age and what churches weren't ready to serve the present age. Now, this ain't nothing to do with God because God knows my heart. God knows where I stand at politically, and he knows where I stand at spiritually too. And he understands that, I got an angel upstairs who takes care of me, and she prays for me harder than I can pray for myself sometimes. So guess what? God knows my heart. And with him knowing my heart, he understands that I'm just putting a challenge out there. Where is the church? If you look at any mission tied to the church, it's supposed to talk about taking care of the poor. It's supposed to be about taking care of the downtrodden. It's supposed to not be about economics. It's supposed to be about taking uplifting young people in our community. Where is the church failing us at in the black community? It's failing us tremendously. I'm not sitting here to persecute every church, because there are some churches out there doing the right thing, doing the right job. But there are a lot of churches out there that aren't doing the right thing and not doing the right job. And so what I ask and I encourage is, what can we do to hold these churches accountable? When are we going to wake up and say, hey, my pastor drives a beautiful car while my window don't go up on my car? When are we going to say, hey, pastor, I'm 4 months behind in rent, but he's living in a mansion? When are we going to start challenging the church to do what it's supposed to do? Or when are we going to walk away from the churches that ain't doing what they're supposed to do? A lot of us do it out of religion. Now, I'm going to drop something out there, because y'all just said, well, isn't church and religion the same? No, religion just means doing something over and over and over and over again religiously. It has nothing to do with serving a God. Serving a God is something you do out of adornment or out of love for that Holy Spirit that you should be supporting. And so my thing is, when it comes to the church, you should also be dealing with an environment or edifice or whatever you want to call it that takes care of you. And if you really know about the church is right here in your heart. The church, that building is just a building where you worship together at. But if you really understood that, you would understand where I'm trying to go at. Because if we're not able to go in that building, but the church here is not working as a core of what it's supposed to be doing, then guess what? We're failing to do what's right for our people. And so the question is, and I'm trying to read off my script, what is going on in the church? What is going on in the church? And yes, it should be about economics and stewardship, but it shouldn't be about adornment and worshiping the money that the stewardship does. That stewardship, as far as the economics is concerned, should be serving the people and making sure it takes care of the problems in our community, not taking care of problems of the pastor. And in those situations I'm talking about ain't even problems of the pastor. Those are just situations tied to making sure we're doing right for our people. And there's too many people out there, yes, with that stewardship. Is that stewardship stepping forward? And I'm talking about what Natalie's saying. Is that stewardship stepping forward? Is that stewardship stepping forward? And this is my good friend Natalie, and I love her because she always comes from the other perspective, because she wants to make sure I touch all subjects. But if that stewardship, the church is about economics as well as stewardship as a whole. And you're right, it is about economics, but the economics shouldn't be the focal part about it. It shouldn't be about prosperity, which is the code word that churches have been using for the time being. And so without me going back too deep in that conversation again, we need to make sure we're doing right in those church organizations and church homes. And so to go back to our previous conversation, we need to understand and demonstrate the power of our vote and our dollar. I agree with you wholeheartedly. We're off topic. We're off task. We done took care of the 4 topics I want to discuss, and we're only 29 minutes in, so I got 31 minutes to ad-lib and play conversation with anybody who else had put in the chat line. You're absolutely right, Natalie. We need to understand and demonstrate the power of our vote. See, the thing about me, Natalie, is this. The thing about me is this, Natalie. With me, it's already institutionalized. Whether you're black, white, Puerto Rican, Chinese, Asian, it don't matter. It's already institutionalized. You got one chance to fail me before I come back to you. See, I already have that built inside me. I don't care what you are, what color you are. If you fail me once, I'll come back. But I got to give you some time to get your stuff together and get it cleaned up. That's the problem with us. People will fail us, and guess what? We'll go right back, then coattail to that person and support them again, and they'll fail us again, and then support them again, and we'll fail them again. And then when we go into our own communities, we're unwilling to tell our brothers and sisters where their faults and issues are, to make sure they can kind of fix those things and make it better for us to be able to be patrons to them. You know, sometimes we get scared that we don't want to have that conversation with that person. But the problem, and that's twofold, because a lot of times I've had conversations with businesses, and rather than accept the conversation, guess what they did? Who are you to tell me what's going on? My thing is this, and I'm talking to black businesses right now. Black businesses, first off, problem number one, there's no black business that can survive off black people. When you in business to get green dollars. That's it. That's it. When you talk about business, you're in it to build capital. That's it. Now, once you build capital, how you redistribute or redirect that capital, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. But when we get in business, it's about getting green. Now, when you talk about getting green, what you want to do in every aspect of business is, guess what? It's about supply and demand. If you have more supply than demand, then your costs don't need to be heavy. But if you have less supply than demand, your cost should be strong. That's not a black principle. That's a business principle. Supply and demand demands the fact that you keep the price point subjected to what you want your audience to spend. You don't make it cheaper if everybody is buying you out. Because guess what? You're not paying attention to supply and demand cheat code. Because that's what it's all about. And so when we go back to what I was talking about, and I want to make sure we need to understand and demonstrate power of our vote and our dollar. All that conversation was talking about our dollar. Now, when we talk about power of our vote, you're absolutely correctly. See, you're absolutely correct. I didn't mean to say correctly. You're absolutely correct. We don't assert the power of our vote, and that's why they take us for granted. People in this day and age, let me teach you something. In this day and age, I know what communities vote in my community at 20%, 30%. And I know what communities vote at 70%, 80%. It's gotten sophisticated. It's no longer the days of we didn't have information ahead of time to know where people were voting and how people were voting in our community. That stuff is long gone now. We live in a day and time right now where we understand where people show up to the polls and where people don't show up to the polls. And if you don't believe me, once again, I told you, I'll drive anybody who wants to ride in my community from my community, and I'll tell you why them potholes are there and why this bridge is here cutting through this community, why this community has dilapidated housing, and why this community doesn't have trash on the ground, and why this community gets its trash picked up weekly regardless of any time frame, and this community gets its trash picked up weekly in any time frame. See, when you understand, and I like to say, when you overstand these things, then you understand how politics works. Now, the one thing I did not talk about was this. More people need to step up and run for public office. More people need to step up and run for public office. Gone are the days of us depending on the one person to go on the ballot to represent all the community. That's gone. I adore when I love seeing when it's more than 2-3 people on the ballot running for something. Because you know what that means? If it's more than 2 people running on the ballot for something, that means that people are hungry for change. People want to see motivation. But the worst thing I hate seeing is a community that one person's on the ballot and that person's been on the ballot for 25 years and ain't did a dang thing for that community. But then you want to put them back on the ballot and give them another chance. If they failed you for 24 years, why in the heck would you give them another chance to fail you for another 4? I just don't understand that. But the only way you're going to change that piece is if you're not willing to vote or you're not willing to run, then guess what? Find characters in your community that can serve a vested interest that you want to see represented up there. And guess what? Then you can change the spectrum. You can change the system. But the problem with us is, guess what? We want to rely on, and somewhere down the line with us black folk, we have gotten to the point of we're accepting those people who represent us. And then guess what? They'll do us right next time. We'll just ask God to do this. Look here, if you know anything once again about Bible, and I hate to blend Bible and all this stuff like that, but I will. Faith without works, keyword is works. Faith without works is dead. If you're not working what you have faith in, then you're not expecting any kind of results to actually happen. If you're not working the plan will fail. You have to understand what you want to do, what you want to see to come out in your community can only happen if you're working in your community to make it happen. If you're holding elected people accountable, make it happen. The one thing I can tell you about me, when I call those people who represented me, and I very rarely call them, when I call the people who represent me, and I ask them to do something, I give them 24 hours. I'll call them again. I give them another 48 hours. I call them again. I give them a week after that. I call them again. And then I put all this in documentation form. I don't do all that just because I want to be a butthole about it. I do all that because when it comes time for them to run for office, I'll print that little email out and say, these are the times I called you, and these are what I called you about, and these are the issues I asked for you to fix, and guess what? You did absolutely positively nothing. And guess what? Shame on me if I can't find somebody to run against them that can actually fulfill those missions. See, when we become like that in our black communities, guess what? we can change everything there is. But until we understand that we need leadership that's going to represent us, we're going to keep getting the same crap we've been getting. And that ain't a local Chatham County issue. That's an issue across America. And I've seen some communities that took that advice I just gave, and they're light years ahead of us. And I've seen some communities that just put their head down and look left and look right and walk away and do absolutely positively nothing to change their experience. And guess what? It's detrimental to not just you, but your kids too. And so with that being said, I want to make Sherelle, Miss Grant, how you doing? A lot of mess, great greed, power, status, and no genuine love. I couldn't have said it no better, Miss Sherelle. The only way we're gonna get better at this is if we take the time. And you right, Natalie. I love you, Natalie. You're right. We need consistent and comprehensive vigilance of all of our elected officials. They work for us. We must act accordingly. You say that again. See, they're gonna be scared of you because guess what? They're gonna be scared of you because you understand how the business flows. If we can get 2,000 people in your community to do just what you just said, then guess what? We can change our community. Watch this. I'll say this, and nobody else will say it. I'll say it. Guess what? If you looking for the shout outs, if you looking for, hey, how you doing? How your mama doing, all that, I ain't here for that. It is what it is to tell you what it is, what it is. It's about making sure we get out of this ItIS struck we've been in. I can tell you right now, 2018 primary election, we voted at less than 18%. Guess what? That controlled the school board and that controlled everything in the state of Georgia. We chose the elected people who ran for the state of Georgia. 18% of us showed up to polls there. Less than 70% showed up to the polls 8 months later when we had the November elections. We can't expect better in Georgia if we're not doing better in Georgia. Stacey Abrams lost by less than 50,000 votes. Why is that? Because 50,000 people stayed at home. I can tell you alone, almost 150,000 people just in the 1st Congressional District did not show up to that election. If they did, guess what? We would have somebody of representation of the Democratic Party, or of representation of the people, I should say. But guess what? If we're not showing up, then we're not showing out. And until we do so, we're going to keep losing so. And so this conversation is what it is. It's going to be a weekly show every Friday, 8 o'clock. I'm not here for ratings. I'm not here for anything else but to make sure you understand the knowledge you need to have to prepare you for what's coming up in the near future. If you want to see somebody, if you want to hear somebody, I'm asking you, I'm begging you, hey, my number is 912-228-2205. That's my cell phone number. Been the same number forever. Everybody in America got it. I even get calls from people who don't like me. I get calls from racists and everything under the sun. But if you have something you want to talk, then make sure you tag me and get me in the conversation so we can talk about those things. Yes, this is a great strategy. Documentation, I learned that on my job, Ms. Grant. I learned on my job that when you have documentation, you can defeat any kind of purpose there is. They cannot fail you when it comes to documentation. And we need to hold our leaders accountable. We need to make sure when we call. My thing is, Sherelle, guess what? Call them once a month or call them once a quarter and say, hey, how you doing? What's going on in your environment? Beg, borrow, steal. Get on their nerves. That's what I tell you to do, because you know what? When you do all these things, that's how you hold these folk accountable. But when you don't call them, when you don't hold them accountable, and 4 years down the line, you didn't have these conversations. Y'all know how we like to do. We like the Facebook conversation. We like to put it on Facebook and say all the stuff that's going on with our elected leaders and talk about all that good, bad, and different baggage. And guess what? That person, they read it, but they never let you know they read it. And guess what? They don't never change their mode. They don't change their conversation because you never sent it through their you never sent the documentation through the proper channels. And that's why we keep failing. We must step forward. We must step forward. We must step forward and do things right. Or guess what? It is what it is. And we're going to keep being what we be. Don't get caught by that ItIS. Yes, I appreciate it. Melvise, one of the most kindest young men I ever known. Melvise, this is a great conversation, great candid conversation. These conversations, this is just the first one, the beginning. I need to know what y'all want to hear from or hear about. I know the young man named Anthony. Anthony, he said he wanted to come on the show and talk, and I was going to bring you on the show, brother Anthony. I hope you hear me and anything like this. I was going to bring you on the show, Anthony, but I guess you deleted the message. I didn't see the message again, and And so I forgot to come back and reach out to you, but I did see that you want to come on the show. I adore when younger people than me want to talk about those issues, because you know what? It makes us stronger, because I'm not the avenue to all knowledge and all understanding. Sometimes I need to hear from people. I need to hear from people like yourself. And my thing is, if I do that, then it makes me a much better person. So it is what it is. It's gonna be what it be. All right. And so with that being said, I see I got 21 minutes left. I got to ad lib. I mean, did y'all share this thing? Because my thing is, guess what? This is a promo. This is the beginning to the end, as I like to say it. Give me some more topics out there. I've been trying to make sure we read everything. Did I miss any topics? Didn't miss anything. Didn't miss anything. This is Jimmy J. Once again, it is what it is. I'm not going to ad lib. I'm not going to go back into discussion. We already talked about the 5 points. The 5 points that we talked about today. Let me get my phone going, because my phone went quiet on me. The 5 things we talked about today was the NFL football. It's back. It's back. Do we forgive or forget 2021, the season right here? When I talk about forgive or forget, we're talking about when it came to Colin Kaepernick, how the NFL ruined this man's career and actually did what they did. And talking about the fourth impact on black economics. What are you saying, Natalie? Go ahead while I finish the statement. COVID versus covert. We talked about how people are presumed to be scared about COVID. Is it a covert operation? Is a COVID operation? When we talk about these kind of operations, they're looking at the Republican Party is vaccinated probably about 50%. The Democratic Party is vaccinated right about 80%. I heard that snippet on TV today. And so basically they made COVID into a political issue. Everything has become a political issue. Put your mask on when you're in school, when you're not in school, protection of other people and everything like that under the sun. At one point in time, it wasn't about kids. Now it's about kids and moving forward. I'm just going to bring you on this show because you want to talk about this fourth quarter, and I'm trying to figure out what you're talking about with the fourth quarter. And this is what Natalie's talking about, thoughts on the fourth impact for black economics and thoughts of the fourth quarter economics regarding black business and buying black. I'm always a proponent as far as buying black is concerned. I'm gonna answer my question, answer your question the best I can answer, because I'm not knowing where you're going narrative wise. I'm kind of out of the loop when it comes to this kind of stuff right here. But I will say this. I've always been a proponent as far as supporting black businesses, buying black, whether it be the first, second, third, or fourth quarter. I just want to make sure our black businesses, I got you. I just want to make sure our black businesses are doing just what Natalie said in this next comment, changing the whole narrative. I can tell you right now, I don't personally buy anything. I don't go in the stores anymore. Probably 70-80% of the stuff my wife buys comes through an Amazon or through a UPS or a package coming to our house. So we don't have to leave the house. So what I encourage people to do, especially going to the holiday season, is making sure that we're tapped into being a part of Amazon Prime. We're tapped in being a part of UPS delivery and all those other kind of components, because that's where I think shopping is going to go into the next market. I'm a strong proponent as far as making sure we're marketing ourselves in those nuances of platforms, because that's the way we go. If it was left up to me, Facebook would have been gone a long time ago, because you know what? I think we need to create what you call Black Book. Black Book is when we not the Black Book the gentlemen had when they were single, but the Black Book would be the book where black people were exchanging commerce amongst themselves and making sure we built our own network and our own tools for getting that piece going. Tell me Willie Shields. Tell me about Bayview and Clearview. Because like I said, I don't really go into discussion in reference to local issues unless you give me full preference of what I need to be discussing. And when we're looking at what about people getting put out of homes, that's a tough one there, Melvise. The problem with the people getting put out of homes is this, Melvise. The values of homes during this COVID period have skyrocketed, have gone up anywhere from 5 to 20% in monetary value. It's almost to the point it's more equitable for an owner who is leasing a property to take the loss on that lease and turn around and sell the property and make the dividends back on what they put somebody, rather than putting somebody out. I think what we need to be doing is in our government structures, it goes back to government structures, we need to be making sure that there's a black agenda, a blueprint out there for what we need to fix in our community. But see, the problem is that thing right there, Malvise, is we don't want to go to the source of the problem. The source of the problem is having a black agenda, so therefore we can make sure that problems of our black community are put in the hands of our elected leaders. Are the elected leaders stepping forward to take care of this piece right here is a big question. We could talk about reparations all day until we blue in the face, but until we have a plan of how those reparations will be used, then we're just talking. And like I said, shouts out to Shatili Johnson. She has been on top of that stuff when it comes to that piece right there. But what are we working toward to make that thing happen? When it comes to, all right, and this is what Willie is talking about. Willie Shields is saying they're making the residents move from there to build upscale homing. I mean, can they make residents who own those homes do that? Can we make residents who own those homes do that? That becomes the problem. That becomes the topic of discussion. I'm not insensitive to the point of them moving people, but a lot of times we have to understand home ownership versus paying somebody to live in a residence. And somewhere down the line, we lost touch of that. At one point in time, black people owned their communities. Black people controlled their narrative and everything like that. And so to get deeper into that, Willie, that's something I will make sure I do some investigated information and noise on so we can make sure. But once again, y'all, I'm not here to talk because I hear other shows, other platforms talk about a lot of these issues. I'm not here to talk about just strictly issues locally. I want to make sure we're talking about issues globally. But Mr. Willie, I promise you, we will talk about this issue next week when we come on this show. That'll be at the top of my show. The insufficient funds. And I see, okay, the insufficient funds, the check must be cut. I'm not disagreeing once again, but who is leading the charge on this, Natavia? Who's leading charge on it? What is it? And I will ask Ms. Lanier, who's leading the charge on this? You know what we do? We put out language, and all the language is great language. But where is the charge? I saw it, and I saw it with the weeping time. Since y'all want to keep it Savannah, I keep it Savannah. I saw the weeping time, and I mourned about the weeping time. But where was the outcry? Where were we tearing things down, trying to make sure this thing happened? I applaud that same group of people that kept pushing the narrative forward. But where was the community when it came to play? Where was the community when it came to play? Where are the letters? Where are all that stuff? And I'm not saying all that didn't get done on behalf of the leaders who were pushing the narrative. I'm saying where were the people to be behind them that were going to be most affected by that? Because guess what? We got to start standing forward for those things that we need to be standing forward for. And if you're not standing for something, you'll always fall for anything out there. And so if that's the subject we want to talk about, we'll talk about those two subjects. I'm building my subject platform up. National scale, on the national scale, who's leading the charge? Who's leading the charge, Natavia? I don't have no problem pushing the issue, but who's leading the charge nationally? Is anybody leading the charge nationally? What are we doing to change some of these people what are we doing to change some of these people in these positions that can change this stuff? And see, my thing when it comes to reparations, when it comes to all these things, we always talk about it on the national scene, but the national is like this. It's the pig. And I still have not to this day seen anybody swallow a whole pig whole. The best way to eat a pig is you cook it and you eat it piece at a time. And piece at a time is finding ways to create local policies that nick and curb against all these issues in our community. But that goes back to a black agenda. If we're not willing to put a black agenda together, then guess what? We keep losing. And you're right. We have to push this local. I want to see it national, but if you look at the voting rights, are we going to get the voting rights? I'm scared we're not going to get these things, but guess what? Because we keep depending on everything federal. When we can't even, it's an old song that says, sweep around your own backyard, you sweep around your own backyard before you sweep around mine. We have to take care of things locally before we get into the thing. And Natalie, I'm not going to agree or disagree with the Chiefs. I just ain't see. You say it's too many Chiefs. I see it's not. I see it's not enough Chiefs out there that can make the reparations happen. So maybe that's a conversation discussion. I might just bring you and Mr. Willie Shields on the show next week just so we can have these discussions locally. Since we want to talk local, I ain't got no problem getting into that. But then if that's the case where we need to be at, that's where we need to be at. John McMaster's, the arena and Canal District have caused housing disruptions. I knew about this years ago when in 2017 I had mentioned that, but guess what? It's an issue tied to the city of Savannah. And John, you know good and well, just as well as I know, that if the city of Savannah does not want to change its leadership, nothing's going to change with the plan of action. And if it's the same leadership that was there in 2017 when that conversation I heard it, and now that leadership just changed shoes, and guess what? They moved forward. I hope you caught that. They changed shoes and they moved forward. Why you expect something different to happen? And it's in the housing disruption, you already knew it was going to happen. When they built that arena, it's going to cause a demise in that community, and that community is going to be totally different from what it is currently speaking. So we already knew that. Estimated $83 million. I guess that's what you're talking about with appropriations. I'll look into it. If that's reparations we want to talk about next week, then we'll make sure we do it. Too many black electeds are faking it. Hey, man, it's a quarterback challenge. If you heard me earlier, the quarterback knows how to play best. But if you don't have the right quarterback at play, then guess what? He can play a good fake game. And the issue is this. The people elect the politicians. Politicians don't elect themselves. Every now and then you'll get a person appointed into position. But 99.9% of the politicians who are in position are elected. And guess what? I can go back and show you in most of these election cycles, no more than 30% of the voting population is showing up. So I understand we can say too many black people are faking it. But guess what? While they're faking it, they making it because guess what? We're not making it to the polls. So if you want to change that narrative, convince black people to show up to the polls. All right. Sweep around your own front door before you sweep around mine. I can always trust Orlando Scott to make sure he take care of his little brother, to make sure I get those puns right. And thank you, Julius. This is just the first of many conversations. We're at the 53.43 mark. I appreciate y'all taking the time to tune in. I asked y'all to double down on this discussion. I asked you to go out there and tap 2 or 3 of your friends. We are not playing with these issues. It is what it is, and we're going to talk about the subject we need to talk about. I'm telling y'all now, y'all can be mad at me later. I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds of local politics, not because I'm scared to talk about it, but because we need to talk about national trends. And then if you're willing to take those national trends that are failing us and break it down into local politics, I have no problem. Any real difference between Eddie and Van? Yes. One's black, one's white. No, I mean that you asked for a difference. I'm giving you a difference. I'm not gonna go into that discussion right there. And time to name names. Linda Wilder Bryant, Dietrich Leggett. There you go. Like I said before, I'm not gonna go into local politics too deep, but I will share all these comments because they are comical. And my thing is, if you want to name names, you can name names. But however, people went to the polls and elected these people in office. And if nobody ran against them, who are you really blaming? All right. The last comment I got, Natalie. Natalie, what you got for me? All right. Eddie probably wouldn't have sold the Weeping Time. Hey, man, that's up for discussion. We can all, matter of fact, I'll call Eddie after this thing and ask if he would sell it. I got a good relationship with Eddie. I'll call him and see if he would have sold it. All right. I done went through all the comments. We are 4 minutes before we need to close the show out. I see y'all are locally driven. I love the fact that y'all are locally driven. I will make sure I get some of these local topics, but I will tell you, I am sticking to the script, and I will stay on the national trend because we need to talk about national trends that affect local policy, local politics, and that's where I really want to get to. But let's talk about some of these national trends, y'all. Let's not get into the name calling. I know some of y'all want to get into name calling, but I'm not going to get into the name calling. I'm not going to get into heated discussions because you know why? We put these people in office. And what I'm starting to see is this. I'm gonna say right, we be and complain. The BITC, we do that and complain all the time. But when it comes time for these people to run for office again, guess what? They run unopposed. They run without any opposition, and they come to you and say, "Hey, I'm sorry for not doing what I was supposed to do the last 4 years, but I promise, Boy Scouts honor." You know, that's the Vulcan honor. Boy Scouts honor. I will do better in this go round to make sure I do better for you. Look here, man. I ain't here to call names out because you know what? I don't live in none of those communities. I live in a different community with a different set of issues. I have my own set of issues. But because we have this platform to discuss the issues that affect you, I'm here to listen to what you got to say. But if you're not going to come with a solution and you're just going to come out and bash people and name people out there like that, then you're on the wrong show, because that's not what I'm going to do. Will I talk about their bad policies? Yes, I'll talk about their bad policies. Will I talk about their bad character? Yes, I'll talk about their bad character. If they dog out or talk bad about a constituent, I'll call that out to their face. But I'm not going to do all this name calling unless we're willing to talk about the politics that got them in office. Because guess what? That's what it's all about. If we're not willing to talk up and bring the discussion of how they got in office, don't come to me with the problems that be as far as how to get them out of office. Because guess what? We're just whistling Dixie if nobody is willing to step up and run against these people. And I'm there. I'm done. I done answered all the questions. I done put all the promotions. 83 children. And right, you right. I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you, Latavia. I didn't think it was 83 billion. It's 83 trillion. And I believe that's close to the number. But once again, I'll do my research on that. Mr. Shield, Willie Shields, I'll get back with you on that. I have a conversation with Bonetta in reference to what's going on in that community right there. Being honest with you, I'm a straight up honest dude. I don't know what's going on in that community. I did see it come across my screen a couple of times on Facebook, but I have been in and out of town, and I got my own personal stuff that I've been dealing with, so I don't follow the local trend as well as I follow the national trends on stuff. And Natalie, you hit it on the head. I'm gonna bring it to you. All right, you rock boots, huh? Well, you rock boots. Let's go national. Trump, Candace on, Biden, Obama, Warnock. Let's go. Yes, we're not gonna be able to do it today because you came too late with that. But if you want to talk about national trends, Trump is going to jail. Candace is crazy out of her mind. Biden needs to step up and keep doing what he's doing. Obama, keep writing those books. Warnock, what I need from you, Warnock, is come to the black community, find out what we need to have in our communities. And I answered all of them in the quick 35 seconds I had to give all that. But Natalie, I will make sure that we bring all that conversation. Please remind me next week to tune in and talk about that piece right there. With that being said, I hope the first airing of our show went well. I'm here to talk about national trend issues that we can bring down and make it into local conversations. If you're not willing to start talking about policy, if you're not willing to start talking about bringing together and working through those people and replacing those bad politicians, then I'm not willing to bring any kind of conversation. I'm not willing to do anything with you or for you because you got too much anger in your heart. And the only way we're going to fix these problems is we start holding people accountable, be transparent, and do what's right for our people. With that being said, it is what it is. And I just wanted to thank everybody for tuning in for the first show. And we're going to be out. Sayonara. Peace.